Like I said in the last section, a lot of review here, but we're going to use it in some different ways. So let's talk about our measures of central tendency, which we all should hopefully know by now. And we also can call it a measure of center as well. Either way. And it's just a single number used to summarize one variable data. And the terms that you're probably familiar with are the things that we're going to use. So the different ways we can summarize are by the mean, the median, and I'm sure some of you already know what the last one is. You got it. Mode. Okay, so let's just review what those mean. We'll talk about, one or two things that we're going to kind of add to it to think a little bit differently, and then you'll see it as you work on your assignment, some of the other ways we'll look at it. First one we're going to look at is mean. And I know all three types of these things are in a way a type of average, but this one you really want to think of the word average. Okay? Each word has like a word that associates with it that's going to help you, so think average. And how do you find the average of numbers? Well, you add them all up. So basically, if this is my set of data, I would add up every single one of these numbers. Okay, just imagine I put plus signs all the way across. I'm just going to do this. Take me 2 seconds here. I add up every single number. Okay, and there's two ways to do this on your calculator. You can add them all up, hit equals, and then divide, or you can put all of these in parentheses and then add them up and then divide by how many there are. And if you count all these up, there are 16 total numbers. And once I would add them all up, I find that there's a total of 484. And we divide by 16 to get a mean of 30.25. Okay, so that's kind of saying the average of all these numbers is about 30.25, some spot in the middle to summarize our data. Well, let's put some meaning to this, and let's think about something with it. So let's just pretend this represented the number of people that attended a weekly meeting for the last 16 weeks. Okay, so if I look at this first piece, this 14, so 14 people attended the first weekly meeting, 23, so on and so forth. We have some big ones of 80 and 92. Those must have been some important meetings, okay? And the final week, there was 21 people that attended the meeting. Well, let's just say you didn't know how many people attended each meeting. And all you were told was, over the last 16 weeks, on average, 30.25 people attended those meetings each week. What could you do to find the total people over those 16 weeks? If I didn't know this 484 yet, and I didn't know any of the weekly attendances, all I knew was the average per week and that it lasted for 16 weeks. What could you do with that if I knew that the mean was 30.25? Well, it kind of works backwards. Before we had the total right here, and now we're trying to find the total. Well, since I took the total divided by how many there are to get the mean, we're just working the opposite way. We're going to take the mean and multiply how many there are to get our total. Okay, that's important to know how to do that because that can help you with some different things when you use the mean. So remember that little rule. Get that written down. Median. Does everybody remember the word that associates with median? Remember median, you want to think middle. It's the number that's like exactly in the middle. Okay? And I can't do it when the data is scattered all over. I have to put it in order first. It's got to be in order. Otherwise, there's really no middle. Okay, so put it in ascending order. And what we're going to do is, one kind of hint is that if there's an even amount of data, know that there's going to be two medians. And we'll talk about what to do with that, okay? If it's an odd amount, know that there's going to be one exact median. And it works out perfect. You just circle it. Okay, so here we go. This one, there's 16 total numbers, right? So there's going to be two medians. So one way to do this is to just start on one end, cross off, go to the other, keep going back and forth until you get to the middle. But, sometimes that takes a little bit of time. So the easiest way to do it is think about how many numbers there are and to cut it in half. Divide by 2. What does that give me? 8. So that means I need to come in 8 numbers this way, and I need to come in 8 numbers from the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is my middle. So here I have two medians, just like we talked about. But I never list two numbers for a median. So what do you think I would do to find the median? That's right, you take the average. You find the average or the mean of these two. So I got well, this one I could probably tell. What's right in the middle of these two? 22. Okay, if it's hard to tell what you do with those two numbers, that's right, to find the mean, you add them together and you divide by how many there are. So this one has a median of 22. And lastly, mode. And this one, it's kind of nice because the word that's associated with it is also four letters. Mode, think, most. Mode, most. Mode, most. Okay, pretty easy. Is it possible to have no mode? Yes, it is. There could be no mode, and that's only when all numbers occur exactly the same. Exactly the same amount. So if every piece of data occurs once or every piece of data occurs twice, there would be no mode. Well, let's look in this case. In this case, I got 2 14s, I got 3 21s. Anything else that matches up? Nope. So 21 is my mode, because that occurred the most. Could I have multiple modes? Sure. If there would have been another 14 in here, and I would have had 3, then I would also list that as the mode, okay? But I don't have another 14, so there's just one mode. So there could be no mode, there could be one mode, and there could be multiple modes. Okay, so you just have to be careful. So last thing, with that data, which measure of central tendency summarizes this set of data the best? Okay, and we got some different numbers here. Which one summarizes it the best? A lot of people think the mean does most of the time, because the mean, that kind of finds the average. This finds like the exact average. So most people just say, yeah, you can always use the mean. Okay, that's what you do in school, all those different things. Find the average. That's what you find for like points per game, in basketball and different stuff like that. But look back at our data here. Is there a reason why I wouldn't use the mean? Look through all those numbers. Why is the mean so much higher than the median and the mode? Does anybody see it? Here we go, right at the end. There's an 80 and a 92. Those are way bigger than the rest of the data. What do we call those when they're way outside the data? Those would be outliers. Okay? Whenever there's outliers, you don't want to use the mean, because that affects the mean. That makes that mean jump way up. Most of the data is in the 20s, isn't it? Just look at it. It's kind of right in the 20s. Okay? So those outliers affect the mean. So in this case, you wouldn't use the mean because of an outlier. So if there's outliers, don't use mean. Usually that's the best one. And then when you're deciding between the median and the mode you only want to use when it occurs way more than the rest of them. And in this case, if I look back, it occurred 3 times. I had 14 that occurred twice. Everything else occurred. It didn't occur way more. So median is by far my best choice in this case. Okay, this would be the best way to summarize this set of data. So normally you're right. Mean is kind of your best one. If there's outliers, don't use it. Okay? And then you only want to use mode when it occurs way more than everything else. Otherwise, the median is the way to go. Okay, so just remember those quick tips when you're looking at your measures of central tendency.